Hey, it's Nick here, doing the best with what I got. So, one of the main themes that we have at the Alpha and Omega brand of 3Ps is the parenting to your thought style. So, I took a bunch of classes in college about psychology, and I took human growth and development and child and adolescent development, and I learned about the different parenting styles, and I see how the different parenting styles to children are similar to types of thought styles that we would have for our thoughts. And it's not bad to think of our thoughts like children that need to be taken care of and looked after, watched over, have boundaries applied to them, because certain thoughts lead to certain behaviors that we don't want to engage in. So I'll go ahead and get started. Now, the first parent style that I'm going to mention is the authoritarian, which tends to be too strict, sets unrealistic boundaries for the person, creates standards too high, unforgiving, very impatient, creates their logic that suits them at the moment. Whatever they do is correct. So that's the theme, is that if they're doing it, it makes sense, and don't question them. And a person exhibiting that thought style would be doing the same thing. They would just be using whatever logic suited them at the moment. A person in this thought style would be using harsh language with themselves, and just like a parent to a kid, would you be using harsh language usually? Not all the time. Uses emotional reasoning, doesn't properly help person become better, doesn't typically do what's correct in order to have the best interest of the person in mind, whether it's the parent to the child or the person to their thoughts. So we've got that parent style. And I've come up with a name for the wise mindset ideal parenting style, firm but loving. This would be the authoritative parenting style to actual children, but I don't want to use that term to thoughts because it sounds too much like authoritarian. But this is it. Yeah, sets unrealistic boundaries, sets realistic boundaries for their children or the thoughts, and enforces them. So for a person using this or in this mindset, they wouldn't allow themselves to think about thoughts that would that would lead to them engaging in behavior they don't want to engage in, basically. So, and this person doesn't treat mistakes as if they're the end of the world. They develop resilience by treating the mistakes like learning experiences. Patient, understanding, uses consistent logic, doesn't just make up whatever logic suits them. Ethics in mind, do unto others as you do unto yourself, and don't do unto people what you wouldn't want done to you. And I think we can all read the rest there. So, values knowledge is very important for people in general, and yes, cares about making themselves a better person or making the child a better person. That's ideal. So we move from there, and then we've got a enabling mindset. So this would be, I think, I forget the exact term for the parent, but yeah, for this mindset, you have boundaries and you just kind of make excuses to not enforce the boundaries. Too forgiving, just not realistically patient, doesn't have a time-based goal in mind. Same thing with the logic. Like the emotional reasoning is the common theme amongst the three undesirable parenting styles. That's when emotional reasoning is when you're not going to be making the best decisions, and that's somebody in this enabling mindset would easily allow themselves to be engage in a behavior they know they don't want to do, using emotions as their as the reasoning. So. Now we can see here, what constitutes the more lackadaisical parent. A parent to an actual child using this mindset would not allow the child to experience the consequences of their actions. It would, not discipline the child, and then they would create, that would be like a cause, kind of, and then the child would be the effect, as the child affected other people, that would want a person to be responsible for themselves, and to be able to take care of themselves and follow rules and instructions. So then the enabling mindset, one thing about this, we call it the partial efforts, because what that does is basically, you might say, like, you had a problem with drugs and you were in this enabling mindset, and you were like, well, screw it, I'll just drink one beer, or I'll just smoke one joint, or whatever it is, the drug you have a problem with. After that, you go from the partial efforts, the abstinence violation effect would come into play, the AVE, the abstinence violation effect, and then you'd go to the extreme efforts. You'd be like, well, damn, I'm on day one, I drank that one beer, I smoked that 120 rock of crack, so now I might as well drink a 12-pack, or I might as well blow my whole check on crack, or whatever it is. The extreme efforts, the enabling mindset leads to the neglectful mindset, where the person just doesn't care about the consequences. Either whether it's the person using the mindset, or the parent that's being neglectful to their child. The neglectful mindset doesn't care about the consequences. Therefore, they don't have any boundaries, because then they'd have to enforce them. That's not typical of somebody who's in the extreme efforts mindset to really care about boundaries at that point. The person using the mindset doesn't care about how they affect others. The parent doesn't care about how that child affects others, who would suffer for the child's lack of discipline. Logic is the same thing with the other undesirable mindsets. Large language, emotional reasoning could become criminal. I multiplied that by 3, because that could go for the parent could become a criminal due to the neglect. There's criminal levels of neglect. The person exhibiting the mindset could do criminal things while they're in the efforts mindset in order to get their drugs. Most likely is what we'll be talking about. And then the kid, if there was the child that was being neglected by the parent, could end up becoming a criminal later in life, because they say neglect is a common factor involved in people acquiring sociopathic traits. And that people that are people that commit crimes tend to be sociopath. So, and there's of course no concern for ethics if you're extreme ethics, and doesn't care about the parent doesn't care about whether the child will become a better person, doesn't have the best interest of the child, and the person with the mindset doesn't care about them becoming a better person, doesn't have their own best interest in mind. So we try to emphasize mindfulness, so that people are aware when they're slipping from the ideal mindset into the enabling mindset, mainly. So that's all I wanted to say today. Thank you for listening. Have a great day.